It's 11:47 p.m. You're lying in bed, completely still, eyes open. The room is quiet. Everyone around you probably is asleep, but your mind is running a full simulation of a conversation you had 3 years ago, calculating what you should have said, why you said what you did, and what the other person must have thought of you in that exact moment. You're not anxious. You're not sad. You're just thinking, again, still, always. And the strangest part, you can't stop, not because something is wrong, but because your mind genuinely cannot find the off switch. If that feels familiar, if you just felt a quiet recognition move through you, stay with me, because what's happening inside your head isn't a flaw, it isn't weakness, it isn't you being dramatic or sensitive or broken. There's actually a reason for this, and once you understand it, you might start to see yourself very differently. There's a network in your brain called the default mode network. Scientists discovered it almost by accident. They were studying active brain tasks and noticed that when the brain had nothing to do, a specific cluster of regions lit up intensely. They expected rest. They found a storm. This network activates during self-reflection, memory replay, future simulation, and meaning making. It's the part of your brain that talks to itself, and in overthinkers, it never really goes quiet. It just keeps working, keeps processing, keeps searching for something it hasn't quite found yet. You are never broken. You are always just wired to think deeply. The question is, what does that actually look like from the inside? The first sign is that you replay conversations long after they're over, not because you're insecure, though people will tell you that, not because you're obsessive, but because your brain is a meaning-seeking machine and it doesn't release an experience until it feels resolved. You'll go over something someone said, not to feel bad about it, but because something felt slightly off, slightly unfinished, and your mind is genuinely trying to understand why. It's not rumination for the sake of pain. It's your mind trying to close a loop that it doesn't yet have enough information to close. The insight here is this: you're not replaying the past because you're stuck. You're replaying it because you care about understanding. And that's actually a rare and deeply human thing. The second sign is that you make simple decisions feel enormous. Picking a restaurant, replying to a text, choosing between two nearly identical options. For most people, these are trivial. For you, every choice activates an entire decision tree. Consequences, other people's feelings, the version of yourself each option implies. Psychologists call this analysis paralysis, but that term doesn't quite capture it. It's more like you can see too many futures at once. You have the cognitive capacity to imagine multiple outcomes in vivid detail, and that gift becomes a weight when you have to move forward with only one. It's not indecision, it's depth. The problem is that depth and urgency don't get along very well. The third sign is that you feel exhausted by social interactions, even ones that went well. You come home from a dinner, a meeting, a casual hangout, and you need an hour alone before you feel like yourself again. People assume this means you're introverted or socially anxious. Sometimes that's true, but often it's something else entirely. When you're an overthinker, you're not just present in a conversation, you're monitoring it. You're reading tone, tracking facial expressions, adjusting your words in real time, and simultaneously managing how the other person might be feeling. You're doing the emotional work of 5 people, internally, while appearing completely calm on the outside. Of course you're tired. You've been working incredibly hard the entire time. The fourth sign is that you know something is wrong before you can explain it. A friend says they're fine. A situation seems normal, but something in you, quiet, specific, persistent, says otherwise. You can't always articulate it. You just feel a slight wrongness in the air that no one else seems to notice. This isn't anxiety projecting. This is attunement. Overthinkers tend to be deeply sensitive to subtle signals, micro-expressions, changes in tone, patterns in behavior. Your brain processes these signals constantly, even unconsciously, and surfaces them as intuition. That gut feeling you dismiss as paranoia, it has data behind it. You just can't always access the file. The fifth sign is that you struggle to enjoy things fully because part of you is always watching. You're at a beautiful place. Something good is happening, and instead of just being there, a part of your mind steps to the side and observes the experience while it's occurring. You think, am I happy right now? Is this as good as it should feel? Why does this feel slightly less than I expected? Psychologists call this metacognition, thinking about thinking. It's a rare cognitive ability, but when it runs constantly and involuntarily, it creates a strange distance between you and your own life. Like watching a film through a window instead of being inside the room. The sixth sign is that you feel responsible for things you cannot control. A friend seems off, and you spend the night wondering what you did. A plan falls apart, and you trace it back to some small decision you made. You absorb the emotional weather of every room you walk into, and when something feels wrong, you instinctively look inward first. This isn't guilt, it's a misapplied sense of responsibility that comes from being highly empathetic and highly analytical at the same time. Your brain looks for causes, and when you can't find an external one, it turns the lens inward, sometimes past the point of reason. The seventh sign is that your imagination runs constantly, and not always toward good places. You're good at imagining the worst. Not because you're pessimistic, but because your mind runs simulations. It rehearses threats so you can prepare. It imagines failure so you can prevent it. Evolutionary psychologists call this defensive pessimism. The brain's attempt to protect you by thinking one step ahead of the danger. The problem is that in a modern world, most of the threats your brain is preparing for will never actually arrive. And so the simulation runs. And runs. For nothing that will ever happen. For a future that only ever existed in your own mind. The eighth sign is that you hold conversations in your head before they happen. You script them, you play both parts. You prepare for questions, prepare for silence, prepare for reactions. And sometimes, the real conversation is so much simpler than the one you rehearsed that you feel slightly off balance. The thing is, this isn't social anxiety in the clinical sense. It's your brain trying to reduce uncertainty. You prepare because unpredictability feels genuinely uncomfortable, because you care about how people feel, because you'd rather have thought of something than be caught without an answer. You're not fearful. You're just thorough. In a world that rewards spontaneity, your thoroughness gets mislabeled. The ninth sign is that you find it hard to rest without guilt. You sit down. The work isn't finished, is it ever? But you sit down anyway. And immediately a quiet voice starts listing everything you should be doing instead. Rest feels like a reward you haven't fully earned yet. This connects to something called cognitive load, the mental weight of managing too many open loops at once. Overthinkers carry dozens of unresolved thoughts simultaneously. Rest doesn't clear them, so rest itself starts to feel unproductive. You end up exhausted from not resting properly, and unable to rest properly because you're exhausted. And the tenth sign, perhaps the quietest one, is that you spent a long time wondering if something is wrong with you, not in a dramatic way, just a persistent low-level wondering. Why do I think this much? Why can't I just let things go? Why does everyone else seem so much lighter? And the answer, the real answer, is that there isn't something wrong with you. There never was. You have a mind that engages deeply, feels intensely, processes thoroughly, and refuses to accept the surface of things. That comes with weight, yes. It comes with exhaustion and overthinking, and nights when the off switch simply doesn't exist. But it also comes with depth, with empathy, with an inner world so rich that most people will never understand what it feels like to live inside it.